So back in the 70s, there was a lot of money flowing around for courses. And one of my friends in Rolling Hills, called Verna Code, had an oil painting course. And my friend and I said, hey, let's try it. And I said, I can't paint. She said, I can't either, but let's try. So we tried. It turned out she couldn't, but I could. And I loved it. And I took off and I painted lots of palette knife paintings in pasto because they worked better for me to start with. I didn't know how to blend oils without getting mud, so it was difficult to get them right. So then Verna Code introduced us to the ACACA. She said, you've got to join this organization, it's great. They have shows all over, and they've got this Paul Braid, who is a professor at the U of A, Extension Department, and he goes around all over Alberta all summer teaching oil painting. And we went to many different locations in Alberta and did plein air painting. And his mode of operation was he would take the first hour of the day when the light was beautiful and paint, and we had to watch. And then he'd turn over and say, here you go to it. And we'd spend the next 8 hours trying to recapture the light. Well, the early days of the ACACA, more emphasis was put on paint outs and painting outside, probably because of this Professor Paul Braid who took us around. The painting part is what I really loved, and I've been trying to do a paint out recently, taking some artists out and going on a paint out where you go and you camp and you paint outside for a week, and you've got all your supplies with you, and that's what you're doing. You're painting this week. So 8 o'clock in the morning when the light is right, you zip out and do a painting, and mornings, afternoons you laze around because the light is gone, and wait till evenings, and then it's happy hour. So you don't have too much happy hour if you're going to try and catch the light. It'll have to be evening hour.
So I'm Sharon Moore-Foster, Program and Development Coordinator for Visual Arts Alberta CARFAC. The Alberta Community Art Clubs Association has consistently, since 1968, when Harry Wolfart came out and started to lead artists into professional development and workshops and so on, to educate and inform the community. Part of our relationship was to help artists become more professional in their practice. So looking at the framing, looking at the way they send their artwork around, making sure that they respect themselves as artists and they respect the work that they do. So this is something we've been very excited about doing. At the same time, when it is a volunteer organization and we're a nonprofit organization, we're constantly trying to do more with less. And so we invite a conversation, lets us know that what is significant to you right now and what do you need from us right now. So over the years, you have called us to come in and find, professional artists to adjudicate, to do workshops, to come out to the different areas around Alberta. We have gone and mentored artists in terms of how to develop artist statements and how to, develop a CV and resume, right up to encouraging people to submit. Our Visual Arts Alberta blog and website is filled with information that are all about getting the artists to the next level of their development. We see a community rise to the occasion. Not only are they submitting their artwork, and what they are doing actually is developing a mentorship about how to put on the exhibition, how to manage it, how to receive art, how to call it forth. In those instances, all of this mentorship, it's not just about the creation of the art. It is about and making the art better. It is about finding the voice of each artist. It is about finding a place where the work can be done. And in that situation, helping to mentor the people in different cities and towns and villages, helping to mentor them into the place where they then can assist along the way too. In the adjudication process, ACACA is wise to have 3 jurors. None of us can buddy up. So the nice thing is 3 professional artists, trained, educated, and have done adjudications, will go through and look at the work. we're very interested in mood and voice and atmosphere. So if we are able to find ourselves moved in and out of the space we're in now and into that space the artist was in, we feel like, wow, how did they transport us there? The way they've used everything, the composition, the paint, the value, all of those things that put us into a different space. I mean, it becomes very significant to the voice of the artist and the value of the art.
I'm Donna Chamberlain, and I first met Professor Harry Wolfarth when I was about 14 to 15 years old. He had come out to Wetaskiwin to teach Department of Extension courses. Harry Wolfarth burst upon the art scene in the early 50s, and then proceeded to travel throughout the whole province in almost every corner by Greyhound bus because he didn't drive. The department was very cooperative and very far-sighted in sponsoring the activities of an instructor who would spend the entire week traveling throughout Alberta, visiting rural communities and bringing art to them. He literally brought art to all of the communities in northern, southern, and central Alberta. When he arrived in Canada, he said, "I'm tired of tradition and detail and realism. That's all passé." His models were the group of 7, and anything that could be done boldly and brightly and quickly was what he would urge us to do. And so our paintings were very different. From this group of dedicated and inspired artists, the whole concept of an organization, a provincial organization for rural Alberta artists developed. People used to come in on that long weekend, the Easter weekend, and have a painting session. I'm really happy to see the way in which the zones and the personnel, or the officers and members of the various zones, have developed a good rapport and can work together and come together with a wonderful show that represents artists from throughout the whole province. I think it's a worthwhile and certainly an exciting show, and gives so many artists that opportunity to show in a larger venue. There are certainly values to being a member, having a chance to exhibit, having a chance to meet with other artists, the encouragement that the ACACA provincial body gives to smaller communities to host workshops and bring in artists that we wouldn't normally have, instructors that we normally wouldn't have a chance to have access to. Just the fact that there is a critique of your work. Sometimes you reach a certain point and you need someone to point out how you can improve. And just talking to your neighbor doesn't always cut it. So just having that expertise available is worthwhile too. And I think for a club, it gives you a cohesiveness, a reason for being a club, not just getting together to paint, but for a purpose and a goal. And I think that, again, is something special.
It's finely executed. The elements of art and design, that's the fourth thing I consider, but it doesn't start with an E. It's the aha. It's like, gee, I'm not sure why this works, but it does work, and I really like it. The focus seems to be on the swoop and this lovely little rope connecting them. I'm not sure why that means something to me, except for that it holds the composition together. Less obvious is a kind of acute vision and playfulness that would come with putting the color in here and shifting the values. You know, when you look at something outside, the light is what makes it.
What we've noticed in most of the pieces, and the Green Man one especially, is the painterly approach that's been taken to the different aspects of this painting. What I will do as a personal way to deal with this is I'll get my sketchbook out and I'll sketch quickly what was going on in the panorama, and then I will photograph it. Because if people don't switch their consciousness over to the fact that you're trying to portray something, they're reaching for it. We all tried to reach for it, but we didn't catch it.
Your the luminosity sort of thing is really good too. You're really capturing the light well. And the eyes have life really well done. And if you really want to kind of create that, especially and that can be kind of challenging when you're dealing with heavy textures and stuff too. But even your tones and things like that, create a little bit more background to it, so that your eye goes into it rather than sort of on top. And I'm just intrigued by, like, you've got mirrors going on here, you've got that ceramic hand, you've got the painting on the bottom. I think this student's got a great future ahead of him in terms of, there's no fear in terms of just throwing stuff together to see what happens. And very good, very good. Tell them I'm quite impressed.
Playful in its rhythms, and so playful in these eyes that you have. They're just fantastic. What it does is it almost extends that forest and keeps on. Like, it feels like the forest is in our space, but now there are no trees and it's just paint. It's a curiosity. That's what's wonderful about it, is that the lack of detail in most areas sends the eye along the piece.
Hi, my name is Barbara Chakran Rivers, and I've been with the ACACA for 25 years. I showed with the ACACA up in Drayton Valley, which was my first show. 1 year later, I was on board as the secretary of ACACA. I served the board for 12 years in different positions, my last one being the president. It is an organization that I truly believe in. I'm so glad to see that it is continuing to grow and continuing to change, because I'm seeing a lot of new artists, and it's wonderful work, and it's very unique work.
I'm Glenda Hope Lewis, and I've been with the ACACA for many years. I can't remember the year that I started. It's been so long ago. But I have worked my way up through all the different levels, from beginner to the signature level, which I was invited to join just the past year, and I was deeply honored by that. I love the idea of the club. I love the idea that Professor Harry Wolfarth started out with, to organize a visual art program for the Alberta province, and it's been my joy, and we're coming up to our 50th year, and I hope we have another 50 years of fabulous art and fabulous artists and people who appreciate it coming to our shows.
8 or 10 years ago, where the board decided it would be nice to have a show of all the award winners from all the shows that we had, which is basically 4 shows. There is a jurying process, like what starts off as a zone show in 3 regions of Alberta, northern, central, and southern. It's kind of like the creme de la creme. These are award winners from the zone shows and from the Alberta-wide shows.
I was invited. I got this letter in the mail, and they invited me to be in the signature level, I thought, hey, this is impossible. And that's the highest level you can reach in the organization, and that was wonderful. It's always wonderful to see the young people coming forward, because some of the stuff is just astounding. It's so beautiful, so unbelievable, so different, something original that you just never could imagine could be, and I love it. I wish we had more young people in our club.
The whole purpose of it is not to be elitist about the artwork, and to be more encouraging than discouraging, because it's a tough world out there. With ACACA, you have an opportunity to go beyond your area, and plus get input from other artists and from the jurors, because at the art shows there is a critique given to you by one of the jurors, which again, it's educational. You actually get the artist's point of view, you get the juror's point of view, and it's wonderful.
Critiques are one of the most important elements of our club, because you learn so much. They're usually most of the artists, or a lot of the artists, attend the critiques just to get information. And of course, from each artist that presents a painting for critiquing, you get all the information from the critiquer about what's good about this painting and what's bad about this painting. And it's a learning experience, and it's just fabulous. And that's why I would like to see the ACA continue to grow and to be a showcase for the development of the arts and the visual arts in our society. I really believe that art is a very important part of Canadian culture, and that we don't serve it as well as we should, because it gives something to people, something to the soul and the spirit of the human being that you just can't find anywhere else. And I'll close with that. I want that to continue to grow.
My name is Stacey Hunter, and I have the privilege of being an art teacher here at the high school in Lacombe Composite High School. This is my dream job. I went to school when I was 17 to be an artist. Like, that is what I figured I would be, and so I have a 4-year degree from the University of Alberta in art and design. A local community guild, the ACACA, for my students, once they leave high school, not all of them are going on to post-secondary visual arts training. I have one young lady that I know that's not what she's going to do, and yet when she's in the classroom and working on her clay project, I just can't help but feel, my goodness, girl, you need to keep this up. And this would be a perfect venue, a perfect way for her to be in an environment that nurtures and fosters this sort of growth. And some of these kids, I just, I'll be pushing them to be joining it, and it's a lifelong skill. And in fact, that's something that I tell my students on the first day in art, that I'm not teaching a class because this happens to be something that they're going to get 5 credits for, that I'm teaching for their whole lives, that maybe they'll never take art again, but at some point in their life, they're going to come back to this and go, I remember when I did this and I felt good about it. And so I think that this is a longevity thing, a lifelong thing. I think that an opportunity like this is successful because not all kids are good at lacrosse, and not all kids do hockey and soccer and baseball. Some of my art students do that as well, but I think that there is a niche of students that want to excel in this, and again, the community that supports it. So it's a great formula and recipe for success.